Let's kick off. Thank you, everyone, for joining this session of Money Me Convos. I have with me Temitope Daniel. Temitope Daniel is a US-based financial advisor. And today, we'll be having conversations around how to build credits in the US. This conversation is also being recorded, and as such, the video is going to be on our YouTube channel, which can be accessed through moneymee.link/YouTube. And we're doing this because not everybody can meet the session real time, but a lot of people still want to definitely learn from the word of experience and knowledge that we get to share. Again, MoneyMe is a digital banking service for migrants, and we pretty much want to just help migrants do more. So, Temitope, thank you very much for coming up on this show. I really appreciate it. Yeah. So do you want to tell us more about what you do and basically what does a financial advisor do? And then we take it from there.
Okay. As a financial advisor, you help people plan towards their financial goals, how they achieve it, how they build towards that basically. So that is what I do. People have different goals and objectives, and I help people work towards achieving that.
Great. Thank you very much. So first question, the way I like to ask questions is I do have like a list of questions I want to ask. And then based on your answers, I can go deeper and we dig deeper just to, for the benefit of everyone listening. And we want to make sure all their questions are answered. And then at some point, we definitely will let our audience also ask questions too. So first one, for the sake of new and intending migrants, can you enlighten us on what it means to build your credit in the US?
Okay. So let's say, what is credit basically? Credit is just someone giving you money and expecting you to pay it back. The person can be a lender, any kind of lender, a bank, any credit union company, and stuff like that. So the question is, why should you, what it means to build your credit in the US? So basically, what you're trying to do is to make yourself credit worthy. You're trying to show that you're financially responsible, and when you're giving money by any of these lenders, you can actually pay back. So this is what you have to build up to show those lenders that you can pay back.
Okay, great, great. I think from my own understanding, when they say building your credit, based on what you said, it's like a score, right? That you have to build up.
Yeah,
Um,
you have to build a score. Yes.
yeah. So tell us more about that score. Is it like 0 to 1,000? Where does it start from? I mean,
But
you break this down for us, explain like I'm five, and I'm just entering into this world, and really that's what happens to everybody that's migrating, right? I recall years back, not that long, 2 years ago, when I migrated, I also had the same challenges, and I can imagine a lot of folks don't know what this means, and so we want to kind of start from there, and then we now go to the very advanced stages. So, what exactly is that score?
so in the US, there's a credit scoring system. You have between 300 and 850. 300 being the lowest and 850 being the highest. It
Got
can
it.
two main scores that I use. There's the FICO score and the Vantage score.
Okay.
But most lenders tend towards the lean towards the FICO score. 300 means you're extremely poor. 850 means you're excellent. Typically, people with 850 are probably 1% in the US, and 690 to let's say 710 thereabout are actually where about 30 to 40% fall into.
Got it.
Yeah.
So most people are even up to the level of 710. Okay, thank you very much for helping with that. So why is it important to build credit in itself? So I'm moving today to the US. By the way, for folks that are living in the US who are on this seminar, we'll soon get to like super advanced questions. I believe you know all the things we're talking about already. But we want to make sure this is all inclusive for those that are intending and for those that are new, so everyone can benefit from this. So Why is it important to build credit in the US? Can't I just spend my own cash? Why do I have to take credit? I mean, I living back in Nigeria, I never took a loan in my entire life, right? And I bought a house, bought cars, did whatever I wanted to do. So I'm rich. I mean, yeah, I'm rich. Why do I need credit? Why is it important to build credit?
Well, compared to Nigeria, things are more expensive here. But essentially, the US runs on a credit based system. The more credit you can get, the better for you. And let's start with even buying stuff. Houses going to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Saving towards that is going to be a very huge task. So if you can actually get that from a lender, then that is good. Houses, cars, tuition, all go run in tens of thousands of dollars. That is just one side. That is the lending part. To actually access these things, it makes life easier, and that is where you can actually easily. Well, if you want to pay cash down, you can go ahead bring about 300 to $400,000 in Texas currently, which is actually going high. You can actually put that down. But why would you try to fix that much money into that kind of thing when you can actually get someone to lend it to you? That's on one side. Now, apart from actually lending, there are other people that use your credit score. We start with your landlord. Your landlord is going to ask you for your credit score. He's going to do a credit check on you. He wants to know if when you take a house from him, you'll be able to pay the rent. And the only way to judge your financial responsibility is to see how you've done over the period, which is what your credit score would show. Apart from your landlord, well, there's also utility companies. Utility companies typically also check your credit score. So, for example, you want to get a phone, the first thing they will ask you is, we'll do a credit check on you. And because you'll be paying over a period, right? You'll be paying a particular sum every month. Your credit check would also show that you're actually responsible. If not, you may have to put in deposits instead of paying every month, probably paying 2 to 3 months deposit. And then after that, you will now be making your monthly payments, of which people that have good credit scores would have just started paying monthly, like a normal leasing agreement. And apart from utility companies, most employers are now going towards looking at your credit checks. So that means your credit reports. So that means if you have a poor credit report, chances are high that you may lose the job, because the company is going to trust you with a lot of things, which includes the company's credit card. And if you've not shown that you are responsible enough to actually handle your own personal finance, the company's finance, how would you handle that? That is another thing. And then for people that are coming in as students, I know of someone that when she came in here, she sent her children to the school in the US. School tuition was supposed to be paid every month, and the parent is the guarantor, but she didn't have any credit score in the US. She had to pay 3 months ahead, and then she was still making a monthly payment. She made a 3 months deposit just to show that she can continue paying. So if for whatever reason she doesn't pay 1 month, they would take out of the deposit to make that payment, and they would have to start hounding her to cover up for the shortfall. So
Got that. Got that. Thank you very much for sharing that. That's kind of interesting. Maybe I should also kind of chip this in. Something I also learned for the rich folks that might be listening is the fact that in a lot of cases, the cost of credit is actually cheaper than if you pay it all at once by yourself. So let's say you want to buy a house and the cost of the house is $1 million, right? You're probably better off, borrowing $700,000 out of that, and you paying maybe 4% per annum, right? And you go and put your $700,000 in a fixed deposit where you're adding 7% per annum, right? It makes common sense, right?
yeah.
Than for you to actually give the $700,000 out when you could have gotten a really cheaper loan, you know. So from a cost of capital point of view, it's just even generally cheaper to do credit. Wonderful system that works for both the poor, the common person, and even the ultra rich. Everybody wants credit because it just makes sense overall for everyone. Okay. Thanks so much, Tokwe, for that. Okay, let's move on to talking about improving credit scores. So I would love to talk about two use cases there when it comes to improving credit scores. Let's talk about the person who just arrived in the US today, right? That's one. Then we'll talk about the person who had arrived long before and probably has a bad credit score. Can you give us like some tips and tricks on how to build credit for those two groups of people? I think there's a third group of people, but I'll come to that in a moment. So let's tackle this first too.
So the first two, one already has a credit report that is bad, right? And the other person has a credit doesn't have any credit report at all.
New guy and old guy with a bad credit report.
Okay, let's start with the new guy.
Okay.
The same may apply to the one that already exists. A new guy comes into the US. You have no credit report. You have no credit history in the US. The first thing you should try to do is to open a credit building account. Now, one of the easiest credit building accounts is actually a credit card. When you get that, right, you now start, you may not even need the money for anything. Just try and get a credit card. It may be difficult at the beginning because you actually don't have any credit history. So one of the best ways to do it is to actually secure your credit card with a deposit. And in doing that, you put a deposit down and then they give you a credit card for that limit. But don't take it that it is your money so you can use it anyhow. One of the things they are going to look at is your utilization. And in terms of utilization, you don't exhaust the total limits that you've been given. So for example, if you've been given $1,000, try as much as possible to go to 30% and no more than that. Even if you're going to go above that, like you have to make a payment on a credit card, try and clean it up immediately so that the point when it is being reported, your utilization is low.
So let me just interject there. So when you say 30%, you're saying 30%, don't go at any point above 30%, and even the 30%, try and pay it off before that before the month
Go
end, right?
above 30%. So one of the ways
Okay.
I do mine to make it easier is I go to a store, I buy something. Your credit card would obviously would not be debited immediately. It would just show like a pending transaction. So
Right.
probably I have a $1,000. I do an $800 transaction because I can only do it on credit card. I don't have any other option, right? Immediately, I put in the $800 there. So it's like I've nailed it out at that point. So that helps you to still make your balance still zero because at that point you probably have $800 in credit or like your own money already in
Got
there.
it.
Yeah. But try as much as possible to limit yourself to the 30% and clean up frequently. That is the first way to go about it in terms of credit card. You can also decide to take, I said credit building accounts, right? You can take a car loan and put your own deposit down, which would reduce your interest rate. Because if you decide to go without putting your own deposit just to build your credit, your rates can be very high. I remember when I came and then I wanted to get a car, I was like, oh, okay, now let me see if I can explore the option of a loan. I was given 26%. I had to think about it again that in the US, why would I have to pay 26%? Of
Wait,
which I
hold on 1 minute there. At the time when you were given 26%, did you have a credit score?
was new to the US, no credit score, nothing.
Got
Can't
it.
that
Got it.
help you for any reason? But even if you have a bad credit score, what they are going to use is they'll judge your risk rating with whatever you have, and they'll give you a very high interest rate. And
Got
then,
it.
yeah, so your interest rate will be very, very high. And you'll be like, why am I compared to someone that is paying 4%? A 20% higher interest rate is exorbitant. So that's another way to get a credit building account. You can also decide to take probably a student loan or a term loan to cover some bills, but try as much as possible to only take what you need. It's not like you have to take a lot of money because if it becomes too much, it may become a problem in future.
Yeah.
That's one side. Another thing you can do is if you know someone in the US and the person has a good credit score and the person is financially responsible, you could actually tell the person to make you an authorizer. An authorizer means that your name is on the credit card. The person doesn't necessarily have to release the card to you. By doing that, the person transfers some things to you. The person transfers the fact that that particular credit card, he or she has been paying well on it.
Hmm.
So it has a payment history. And one of the things that counts in your credit report is the amount of how frequently you've been paying, how well you've been doing on payments. Another thing is the length of the duration that the person has had the card for, right? So that automatically gives you, even though you are new into the US, you already have
Hmm.
similar years on a credit card because you are now
Hmm.
part of that credit card. That is another way to add to build your credit card.
I just love the US. There's a lot of new stuff you learn every day. Like this authorizer thingy, right? I have never understood it that way. So this is new learning from me. Thanks for sharing that. I hope someone is also learning something here. Please continue.
Another way to do it is to actually let your utilities be reported on your credit card, to be reported for you, to go to the credit bureaus. There are some companies that help with that. So for rent, for example, I think it's called Rent Trail or something like that. You actually pay them a fee, and the monthly rent you pay, the money you pay every month is reported as you are making your payments. Now, if you default on your payments, automatically it will show that you've defaulted. So you are showing that you are making responsible payments. Another thing is utilities. I think some like stars and some other stuff actually give you the opportunity to report it if you have like an auto pay, and then you'll be reporting those utilities as you are making your payments. That means you are meeting your obligations as they fall due. So that is another option to explore if you don't want to take any credit at all. Then you can also get someone to co-sign with you, like a guarantor, to actually access credit if you have someone like that. Of course, the person is the one responsible, but because your name too is also under that, then you are also the one responsible and you are building towards that. So within 6 months, hopefully you would have moved your score and you probably start with a 700, which 690 to 700, which is not bad within 6 months.
Great, great. Thanks so much for sharing that. So co-guarantors are pretty much more like authorizers. It's just with a different flavor.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. Um, there was something that I was looking at very recently as well. It was about like secured credit cards, where credit cards are pretty much secured with your own cash.
Yes, that was
Um,
earlier on. Yeah.
so is that helpful in any way?
Oh,
You
yes,
want
it is. That's when I said that you have the credit card. But even though you put your cash down, you have to still use it responsibly like a normal credit card, which is why your utilization and everything has to be within 30%, even though it's your money that is supporting it. Because
Oh,
chances
okay.
are high that you may not be able to get a credit card
Got it, got it, got
because
it,
you don't
got
have
it.
any credit reports. Another option is you could try store credit cards. So probably going to a store, you're already sure that you're living here. Probably it's a store that you'll be shopping from frequently, maybe for your groceries or for clothes. You could also take those credit cards on. Usually, maybe they may ask for your social security and just place of residence. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. I have been rejected for a stock credit card not once, not twice. So I mean, I guess I'm just a bad model. Yeah. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, it depends on the store you went to.
Maybe too expensive or too cheap. I don't know. I don't know. But yeah. Anyways, this is not about me. Um, you touched on the point of SSN. So maybe we just dig deeper into that. Are there scenarios, even though there might be edge cases, where someone could get a credit score or credit card, right, without having an SSN, and that could come across maybe undocumented immigrants, many immigrants who don't have green cards, or are not citizens, or someone that's just even just like a visitor. You came to the US one time, you went to Canada one time. Is there a scenario that could happen in today's world? Um, Spoiler, I think there is. But I would love to hear from you what that looks like.
Most lenders would like to have a social security card. And there are some lenders that will outrightly come out and tell you that they would not take a social security card. They don't want your social security number.
Got
You
it.
can get a credit report with your name, but because, well, our names are mainly, they're usually unique, but your social security number is a unique identifier to only you. So that means there may be another Temitope Daniel, but the same Temitope Daniel will not have my social security number.
Hmm. So what I'm hearing from you there is it's not like the system is sort of discriminatory against immigrants in that sense. The challenge is just because they need a unique ID,
Yes.
and the allow my English uniquest of IDs is the social security number. Is that correct?
Yes, that is
Good.
how credit bureaus can drill down to identify you. But they can also use your name and they can use other things to also identify you. So you may get a score, you may have a score, but so for example, when I came into the US, I thought I couldn't access credit. Well, I've been visiting and I had the bank account. And I walked into a bank and I requested for a credit card. And I was given a credit card. All but what they requested for was my social security number. They wanted that. But I didn't have any history. I didn't even know I didn't have a history. I didn't know I didn't have a report. I didn't know I didn't have anything until I tried to get a car. And I realized that, oh, I couldn't access credit, even though the bank that I'd been using prior to relocating to the US was giving me a credit card. They gave me a credit card without actually checking for a credit score because I had relationship with them prior to relocating to the US.
Got it. Thank you very, very much. I think we missed out on the part of those who have a bad credit history. Let's touch on that a little bit. If one has a bad credit history, maybe you lost money at some point, or you just weren't paying the bill, paying your car notes or whatnot at some point, and then you amass a your credit number is like 300, or something, right? How do you get it back up?
It's going to require same building, right? You can't change your history. It's there. And for the
Right.
US, the longest time they can keep a reported bad credit report is 10 years. After 10 years, it falls off your credit report. But for those, depending on what it is between 2 to 10 years, right? For those period, that report will still be there. So you have to, like someone that's just moved into the US, you have to do the same thing. You have to start building all over again. You have to go through the process of trying to show that you're credit worthy. There is no fast add and fast rule about it. Oh,
And
those
you definitely have to pay back all the ones you've owed, right? Definitely.
well, it depends. If you file bankruptcy and there's no way to show you can repay it, you were bankrupt. Unless you have a different agreement or you have a guarantor that is also being held for it, then the guarantor would have to pay. But you, as an individual, are filed for bankruptcy. That's all.
Got you. So you could file for bankruptcy and clean up all over again.
Well, you have to show that you're actually bankrupt because they will sell everything you have to repay that. Whatever that is left is now your bankruptcy, depending on what entity you've used for the loan. That entity will go bankrupt. Like there's nothing left in that entity's account, and you're
Got
not
it.
generating anymore. Probably you're an individual and you're not earning any more money. There's no money in your account. There's no way to pay. Well, you file for bankruptcy. You may get a job in 6, 7 months' time and start all over again. But for those period, you would have filed for bankruptcy.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's that part. But for the period when you fall off, either way, you would still fall off your credit reports in 10 years. After 10 years, it's no longer there. So you can wait out the 10 years, but you can also actually start working again. Look at it like you're new into the US and you want to start building all over and you go
All
through
over
the
again.
process. You will probably get high interest rates for things that you want to do, but try as much as possible to just work towards it. There are some companies that are specialized in building credits. Some of them are real, some of them are not. You would have to do your due diligence on how you want to do that.
So the companies that specialize in building credit history, what exactly do they do?
So the
Can
first
you
thing
describe the
they
modus operandi?
So one of the things they do is they actually buy your loans. So they pay off those bad loans, right? Now it looks like you're in good standing and you're starting all over again. and then you start meeting those obligations. That's if you've not gone all the way to the point of bankruptcy. So they
Got
go
you.
over all those, so they kind of restructure those debts and make it, and you start paying them over. And the more you pay, of course, your payment history is improving and it's showing that you've started meeting your obligations and you're paying it off. It will take a while, but it would grow.
Got you. And I understand it now because let's say you owe $100,000, rather than continue to pay $100, or rather than continue to default on that $100,000, right? You clear it off and then you now have a new loan, right?
Yeah.
Which would not affect your credit. Okay, makes sense. Makes sense. Makes
Under
sense.
past due. If you don't make a payment today, right, 30 days after is 30 days past due, 60 days past due. Those past dues have to be rectified. It's either you make those payments and you clear up and it's no longer past due, unless it would keep increasing by the number of days. But if someone comes to buy it over, it's just showing that at a point you had past due obligations, but currently you don't have past due obligations. It has been, you now have a loan that you are paying every month.
Okay, great. So let's talk about more tricks of building credit or having good credit. Let's talk about credit limits. That's one. And secondly, I would love to know if there are tricks that are specific to students, one, and to people that own businesses, right? To build credit or to have higher credit limits. Do you want to talk us through some of those, if there's any?
So the tricks to having credit limits,
Higher credit limits.
higher credit limits for a student, right? It's just, how I put it. First of all, when you come in as a student, try as much as possible, even if it's to work on your campus. Your F1 visa allows you to work. It's just that you can't work for more than a number of hours, right? So try as much as possible to get a job, and then you start reporting your income, right? And your responsibility, the way you've been using your utilization of that credit makes it better for you. Like it's showing that, oh, you're doing this and you're cleaning up and stuff like that. Most likely the company will just, whichever credit, when you request for a credit, right, request for credit, one of the tricks, if you want, just request for any amount that you want, higher than what you actually want in your heart. That's the first thing, because the target is, if you ask for a 10,000 you can get a 1,000 depending on whoever that makes that decision, and you can ask for a 10,000 and you can get a 300. It's whoever that makes that decision. And after doing that, you can go back in 3 months and ask for an increase. And you would justify your increase that these are the bills that I pay. So, for example, let's say they gave you a 300. Oh, my rent is 1,000. How am I going to pay rent on my credit card if I have a $300 credit card? So, would you please increase it? Oh, okay, fine. They probably will give, don't ask for 1,000. You can ask for 5,000, saying that there are other bills that you have to pay also. And that's, sorry, excuse me.
Take your time.
And that would also help to do that. And another way to increase your credit limit is actually to ask for another credit from a different company.
So another credit card from a different company.
But you have to be very careful, because the more they hit your credit report, is a hard inquiry when you request for a credit card. That stays on your credit report for 2 years. So when
Okay,
they, I'm
go
listening.
ahead.
And one of the criteria, one of the things that they look out for is the hard inquiries, like, are you desperate for money? Is that why you're looking for money? So the first option to explore is actually to go back to your credit card and see if you can increase the limit. And after doing that, then you can go to another company and ask for more, and and ask for another credit limit, like with the same information that this is what I want to do, this is what I want to do. Credit cards are very, how do I put it? They are very tempting. You have so much money in different places and you can get carried away. So even when you ask for that one, just make sure that you still stay within your utilization limit, because what happens is they would add it together. Two things they would do. If you have a credit card that is 1 year old and you request for another credit card, automatically your credit, your pay, your, how will I put it, your year of having a credit reduces to 6 months. Like that is the period you've had the credit for, because they kind of average it. The same way they would add your two limits now. You got 1,000 here, you got 1,000 here. It's now 2,000. So they kind of work for each other and against each other, because your new limit is now 2,000, and you can now go as far as going to maybe $600. But there's also the fact that your length
Your
of
credit.
credit is now shorter.
Mm. So that, okay, now I understand why they also say closing credit accounts and opening new ones can also affect you, because technically you're shortening the average age.
Yes.
Got it.
Try
Got
as
it.
much as possible not to close your credit account like that. Your credit,
Account.
you can keep using them. Probably put a little bill on it that you would remember to do an auto pay from another account that cleans it up. Just keep the credit card, because one of the things those companies also do is that when you stop using their card, after a while they'll close it.
Got you. Got you. Okay, interesting. There's this part that also puzzles me. Is the fact that getting a new credit card, they will give you there'll be an inquiry on your score. Is going to reduce your credit, but at the same time you also need new credit cards to also increase your credit, right?
Yeah,
So it's like a call the sack, right?
yeah.
um if you do this, it affects the score. If you don't do it, it affects the score.
Yeah.
What gives? How do you manage that process?
As much as possible, try not to ask for credits frequently, which is why I said it's
So
an
so
option.
what's a good spacing? 1 year, 6 months?
You could actually do maybe 3 to 4 months. That means that by the time, if you do every 3 months, by the time you do for 1 year, that's 4 checks in 1 year. The next year is 4 checks. That's 8 checks, right? By the next coming year, you're left back to your 8 checks, right? But I don't know why you would want to keep asking for different kinds of credit cards when you can actually explore the option of increasing your limit. And there's another thing that comes
How
into,
many? Go ahead. Sorry.
there's the credit mix part. So if you see that you're just building your credit limit, you could explore the option of a car loan. Maybe you should go and, so it looks like a term loan and you have like an overdraft. And that one still stays on your record and it keeps going down and going down.
What's an overdraft?
So your credit card is like an overdraft, right? It's the fact
Yep.
that you don't have money somewhere, but someone is giving you the money outrightly and you are cleaning it up like a cycle. It
Got
keeps
you.
be cleaned up frequently to show that you're actually using, it's like a, if it's a company you say is a working capital, so it's like your expense capital, kind of something to
Got
cover
it. Got
expenses.
it. Got it. So yeah, okay. And the car loan is a loan. Yeah.
A car loan is
Okay.
termed, is for a
It's a loan.
particular
But
period,
yeah.
for
Call
5 years.
it a deposit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or you could just buy a furniture in your house. You don't have to buy a car. You can, all this furniture, yeah, that's another thing to consider. All this furniture companies and stuff like that, they actually give you interest free. So you go there, you buy maybe your bed, just your bed, and then you put it there and you say you want to pay it over 12 months. That's financing. They financed you for something and you pay over a period and it's interest free. It's a,
Wow. I think I missed on all those opportunities. I always love to pay in cash, right? Don't mind me. So basically, I could just, get that card with that furniture company. If they're giving 24% 24 months, 0% APR, I take it and I pay up within 18 months. That looks really good on my credit and
yeah, it shows yes.
makes sense. Makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that for us. Also, one more question. How many credit cards is enough? 10, 20, 2?
As much as you can manage, as much as your head can carry. But why would you want to have 10, 20 credit cards? Well, it depends. I would say 5 or 6, thereabouts. You have them pegged towards specific expenses such that you can actually manage them. If not, you would have to get maybe one of those apps that help you manage your card, because you mustn't miss your payments. Once you start missing your payments, it starts showing that they are past you. and you also start accruing interest for most credit cards. Actually, when you clean, so credit cards are funny. When you clean up the credit card, you don't pay interest, as long as you, even if it's, so for example, at the end of, let's say on the 30th is your cycle date, right? And on the 31st, for most companies, if you still pay off on the 31st, like this is your balance and you paid off your balance on the 31st, you're not going to pay any interest. So it's
So
like, I'm listening.
yeah, do you want advise us on that managing the dates? So I have been in some funny situations where I pay off this credit on my account. Let's say it's due on the 31st. I put it in on the 30th. Because of this funny thing called ACH, right? It still shows like as if I've not paid, right, on the 31st. Does the bank and credit companies take that into consideration? Or they still penalize you like as if you've not paid? Because since then, what I've been doing is I paid 2 3 weeks before, right? Just to make sure I never forget. Do you have some words for us there?
So at the end of your cycle, you get a statement. Depending on the terms and agreements, they will have had terms and agreements on your credit card. Most of us get carried away when they give us the 15 months free APR. But what happens is at the end of the cycle, let's say it's 30th, right? They give you a bill. There's a particular number of days that you have to actually credit your account. You've put the money there. It's not your fault. The money has moved from your account. The money is already with them. It's just the way the credit card works that it doesn't show. So you put the money in there and it's covered. Even when you eventually credit the account. I remember I gave an example that I have a $1,000 credit card and I buy something of $700. Even though that's
Yeah.
still showing pending on my end, I've taken $700 and I've put it to actually cover the $700. I've cleaned my card in my head. I'm not going back to think about it. So that card is cleaned. And when they pick up the number, although the bank itself is still showing that it's still $700, your credits, the money coming from your own account to fund your debit balances comes in first before the debit balance actually takes place. So that means if you put in your credit, even though it's not showing that it has been cleaned, your debit balance, it's, how do I put it, on the ledger somewhere, it's showing that you've paid your money and you're not owing. It is when you exceed those number of days to actually make the payment that it becomes a problem. But once you make your payment within the number of days, the grace period that you've been given, then it's fine. So, for example, let me even use something very basic: rent. You pay your rent with your card, whichever card, your account. It's showing that your account has been taken out of your account, right? But it's still pending. It hasn't hit
Hmm.
the person that you're supposed to pay. Would you be bothered that your landlord has not received payment, even though your payment was due on the first?
I think you should not.
Exactly. So you know you've paid your landlord and you've moved on. Now, if an issue comes in, there's evidence that you've paid. It's just that your landlord is yet to receive it.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Thank you. Thank you very much for talking through that. Okay. Let's segue a bit into another topic I'm very interested in, which is overdrafts. Right. So because of overdrafts, a lot of people don't like to put their payment in auto pay, right? And and I think there's a good rationale for that. You've worked with hundreds of clients. Um, it's people getting surprise overdrafts. Is it a common thing or is just a fear? Do you want to talk us through that?
If you have payments falling due and they are going into your checking account, some banks may actually give you the opportunity and they make it an overdraft. If it becomes too frequent, it would impact on your credit score because you are taking a limit that hasn't been given to you. And of course, it's showing that you're financially responsible, which is the main thing that the credit report is supposed to show. You're supposed to be able to manage your finances such that at the time when your payment is due, you are making payments. So if that account is not going to be funded, the best option is for you not to put your auto pay on those accounts. But at the same time, you still have, so it falls both ways. you did not meet your payments. That's what it means. At that point, someone demanded payment from you based on the agreements that you've had with the person, and you did not have the money to pay. It would have been better if you knew you weren't going to have that money to pay and you had borrowed to actually make that money available.
Mm, mm.
Because the
So
money,
rather than fall into an overdraft, it's always better to use your credit. Got
use
it.
yeah, just make the money available.
Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Thanks so much for sharing that. So for you, before we talked about students, and we also missed the part of businesses. So I want us to kind of go back to that a bit. So does once establishing a business, provide some opportunities to help folks build better credit? I've heard a lot that establishing a business could help you, manage your taxes better. I guess that's a topic for another day. But do we see the same on the credit side?
Uh, your credit report, if you're a small business owner and you're the only person managing it, may impact on your own personal credit because you're the one in charge. But I once experienced that there was a client that
Just go ahead. That's a poll. We shared a poll. Folks, it's anonymous. Please feel free to fill that poll. Thank you very much. Talker, you can go ahead.
okay, something just popped up on my screen. I was wondering what happened. Okay, so where was I? Yeah, I
Yeah.
was
So
I was giving a scenario. The person, for whatever reason, managed his business poorly. His credit score was bad for his business because his name is on the business, right? That's part of what they'll pull, is on both sides. But he has been making his car payments. He never missed his car payments. For whatever reason, he has handled his business separate from his own personal things, right? His own personal finance. His personal finance is going on well. The business is not doing well. The business is not making his payments. The underwriter looks at it and goes, if I give him a personal loan on his personal side, because he has a steady income on that side, right? That comes in. He has a personal income that comes in for him on another side. So he's managing his personal side well, and his business side is not doing it so well. At that point, the underwriter has to make his or her own personal judgment and go, okay, if I give him personal money, we are fine. But if I give him money for business, then
yes.
I won't. It's the judgment of the person at that point. So if you are doing your business very well and your credit is good, it would definitely have a positive feedback on you as a person. But at the same time, on the other side, it goes both ways. Like, for example, this is just the former president, Trump. People attribute the performance of his company to him. Even though he's not even the manager, he's not the one managing, it is attributed to him. And oh, he has declared bankruptcy before. Who declared bankruptcy? Was it Trump as a person or the
I think
company? So those are the things that you look at. But it still falls, at that point, it falls on the underwriter's purview to make a decision based on that. But at the same time, it definitely colors your opinion of whichever way it goes. Good, oh, this person has been managing business well, and your side or your personal side, your credit to is also good. Oh, you're fantastic. You're very responsible because everything is about you being worthy of whatever they want to give you, whatever you're requesting for. So, yes, it would have an impact, positive or negative, but eventually it still drills down to the person that will make the decision.
Got you, got you, got you. Thank you very much for sharing that. So one last question before I take more questions from the audience, and that question is: aside the age of your credit score, right, and the age of your cards, which would definitely be lower for folks who are just migrating, right? Are there any other ways in which the credit score system discriminates against migrants?
There's actually no discrimination against migrants. We all have this. Everybody, we're all carrying the same thing. The only difference between, well, let's use our age for example now. We are financially responsible people. I will assume that we are
From
financially,
Africa.
yeah, we are financially responsible, right? But we've not lived here. You can't compare to yourself to someone that is your peer, age wise, that started building credit from the age of 18.
Good point. Good point.
The person that has history that you don't have. The person that has probably at the age of 18 got his first car and has paid down and has got numerous cars after that. The person has gotten credit cards. He has paid rent. He has had utilities. They become responsible at that point and they are paying everything off. Even when they make mistakes, it shows there, but it's over. They are now older, they are more mature, they have everything working for them. So it's not like they are any better. It's just that opportunity was there for them. So you are coming in new, and it's not like when you come in, you will start at 300. You're not starting at, they won't drop you to 300. You probably start with a 600 and something. You're just expected to work towards building it, which is what they too started with at the age of 18. That's the only difference. But with respect to discrimination, nobody is discriminating against you as an individual.
Got it. Thank you very, very much. Identity is asking a question here. I applied for a business credit card and got a ad inquiry on my personal credit. Is this right or should I dispute it? This is a very good question. And I also had the same challenge too. I should have asked and I kept quiet. Yes. So is this right and should we dispute it?
What percentage do you own in that company? That's the first thing. Are you the sole owner? Is it, if you're saying it's a business account, is it different from you as an, so there's this entity thing, right? Is it the same entity? Like, who is behind it? If it's just like a board of directors, or should we say a shell company, there's nobody to drill back down to. So is the performance
50%.
if
Let's
it's
talk
just
50%.
50%, then definitely they would find out about you because the money is going to pass through you. You're part of the people that will be using the money. So yes, they would have a hard credit. But you could dispute it. You never can tell. Everything can be disputed in this country. If you're not okay with it, they would explain to you why they had to do a hard inquiry on you. But you can still dispute it. I will always say, whatever I don't understand, I don't agree with, I would dispute it. That's the best way to work in this place. And you may be surprised. They may not see it that way. But basically, if you are the one taking the money, then you would get the ad inquiry.
Yeah, so like for me, I find it like super annoying, right? Hundreds of this, oh, you are peer approved, you are that, you are this, you are that. You send it every time. You keep sending it. Then I make the mistake of opening one and then you reject me. I mean, you just treated me like a bride, right? The last moment, and now you're rejecting me like shit, right? Forgive my French. You know, um, I feel I have a right to dispute that, but well, I guess maybe some folks should try it out and dispute such, and let's see what comes out from there. Like Tokwe said, you never know.
I had someone that asked for a credit increase and it was declined. And they actually called them and asked why it was declined. And the person that looked at it couldn't find a reason, as in the customer service person. And what she said was, okay, maybe in 2, 3 months you should reapply, but I really can't see the reason why they declined it. Funny enough, I think that credit limit then was 300. The last I asked the person was on 500. It was on 5,000. For whatever reason, they increased it from after the dispute, and it went back within a month or two to request from 300. It went to 5,000. So it's just
Interesting.
as there's no. Why would you think from 300 you will go to 5,000? It was just. Should we say luck?
Interesting. Well, we don't know. The algorithms were working in the person's favor at that point in time.
Well, you could say.
Yeah. So thank you very much, Tokwe. I think we've had an interesting conversation here about credit, and I hope we've all learned a thing or two. And we definitely want to have more conversations like this from Money Me to everyone. Yes, someone is asking another question here, so maybe we just spend the last few minutes to quickly touch those. So someone says, please explain balance transfer when you have over 50% usage. Let's take that. And then the last one is touching on the subject of paying twice a month to increase credit score. So first one, explain balance transfer when you have over 50% usage.
So balance transfer means you're transferring from, you're changing, for whatever reason, you're moving from
Transfer balance from one card to another.
over 50%. You're moving that credit to another credit card, right? You're paying off one loan with the other. That's all. You still have the same balance there. And probably the new credit card you are going to has given you. So this is basically a rates game, right? You don't want to pay rates. You are trying to get away from interest. You had a card before, and for whatever reason, you were not cleaning up properly, and you've used up to 50%, and you want to move the payment to another card.
Could it be a rate game and at the same time, you talked about something the other time around paying off a loan, then taking another? Could
Yeah.
you also do
Yeah,
that? Okay,
that's
so a
one of
bit
the
of
things.
that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're actually paying off the loan, like you want to pay off the loan with another credit card. That's one.
Yeah.
Now the interest part is, oh, probably you had the credit card. Some students take that option. Like if it's good or bad, you have to judge for yourself. They take credit cards and they use it to pay off their school tuition and stuff like that. And now there's a balance on it. But when they had that balance right, it was more of on a credit card that gave them 15 months 0% APR. Now they are moving, if 15 months is over and the balance on the card is probably 4,000, and it says your APR will now be 22 to 29%, depending on how they want to look at it. The option is to find another credit card, right? And then move the balance there. Credit cards have some credit cards will tell you that you can do a balance transfer. Some will tell you you cannot, right? It all depends. So you could actually get someone to borrow you money and then you do the balance transfer and then you pay back. But remember that there's a cash limit in credit cards. So you may not be able to get as much as you want to, depending. Some people limit their balance transfer to that cash that you can take out. Some people give you a limit of, oh, utilize this is percentage of utilization that you can use as a balance transfer, but you're starting with another 0% APR for the next 15 months. So in short, you're just carrying the balance and you're trying to pay it down, right?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So could you touch on the subject of paying twice a month to increase one's credit score?
Paying twice a month to increase your credit score. When you pay twice a month, are you cleaning up the balance or you're just paying a particular percentage of what is the balance? That is the main thing. But if you are cleaning up your credit card twice a month, it's fine. Some people report your credit every week. Some lenders report your credit every week. Some report every month. I know of a friend of mine that she knows exactly when a bank is going to report her own credit card. On that day, her credit balance is always zero. They said there's a way you can game it and you look, because when you see your credits, so for example, you go to Equifax or TransUnion, you see a particular balance. That's the balance that they've used as your utilization, right? That this is your utilization, which is what they are using. And you know that, oh, this is the balance on so day. Well, she's very meticulous. Anyway, so if you clean up
Okay.
yeah, you can actually clean up twice a month. If you do that, just make sure that it's one of the payment period is close to your billing cycle, like probably the day after your billing cycle, so that the balance that you're cleaning up is actually the balance on your statement.
Cool. Thank you very much. One last question before we run out of time. Does building your credit quickly impact your borrowing power? E.g., you add a bad score 3 months to when you're ready to buy a house and you quickly build your score. Does it count for you? Or do they look at the long history?
Well, it depends on what kind of bad credit score you've had, because your credit is a combination of your credit score, well, which is coming from your credit report anyway. But if you've been meeting your obligation and it's just that you had a low credit score and it's not like you had a bad report and you've built up your credit towards that period, then it may not really is your score that they will just pick up at that point. The lender will still review your report just to satisfy itself, But credit report, your credit score is also something that is going to be considered. So, for example, for a house, they'll tell you that you should have 690 as score for you to be able to borrow, or for you to get a rate that is reasonable. Because a 0.25% difference in rates can amount to about maybe $300 difference every month. So, yes, as long
Thank
as
you
the
very
score
much.
is good, then if you built your score up to the point, a lender will tell you that within the 3 months while you are going to start closing on a house, you shouldn't go for any more credits and try as much as possible to let your credit build. That is for buying a house.
Thank you very much, Tokwe. We appreciate that. Just one last question for us to end this out. How much should we worry about this course? At what point in time does it not make sense to be really obsessed about, like, having a good credit score?
At what point in your life?
Yes.
When you I really can't say. Maybe you're no longer looking for employment, you no longer need to pay your utility bills. But if you're not going to need your credit score anymore, maybe maybe at 90, 80.
But which pretty much sounds like this is some really
It's
important
something
score
that
that you
lives
need
with
to.
you forever. It's your score. It
Yeah.
lives with you forever. And you can
Okay.
brag about it. It's a bragging thing to say you have a good credit report.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. With that, I would say thank you very much, Tokwe. It's been a fun conversation and an insightful one at that. Thank you everyone for attending. Hope to see you next week, and bye. Enjoy your week end.
Bye bye. Have a lovely weekend.